sports. A bridge that brings people together. And here in the Commonwealth, it's no different. From the gridiron to the hardwood and beyond, we all have a team we love to talk about. Now for the teams you care about, here's Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice.
And welcome into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPNRadio1061.com. Hey, good afternoon. Trevor Rice in, and we are doing another hour of talking local sports as the postseason now leads us to the Super Bowl in NFL play as the championship games happening yesterday. And we find out that it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers going at it, and what should be a good one next month. Unfortunately, that means the Tennessee Titans, who we are affiliates with, dropped out yesterday, losing 35-24 in the early game yesterday. And they got up 10-0 early, then led by 10 again with 17-7 there later in the first half, and then Kansas City, they poured it on from there. They're moving forward as they went up 21-17 at halftime and scored 14 points in the fourth quarter, I should say, to help secure the victory yesterday afternoon as the Chiefs go on to the Super Bowl with a 14-4 overall record. The Titans season comes to a close with an 11-8 mark, where I was giving heavy criticism there at the end of the regular season, where they finished once again 9-7, but they did get to the playoffs. They had one of the most unbelievable runs, beating the defending Super Bowl champ New England Patriots first of all in the wild card round. And then the next round they go at Baltimore, and where nobody was really giving the Titans a chance. Nobody. All the media saying Baltimore was going to win that one pretty convincingly. And that was not the case. Tennessee went into Baltimore and straight up dominated them yesterday. You thought the Titans were going to, make some noise there as they went up 17-7. But you have Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and you just kind of know at that point, it's not going to be easy to keep that offense down. And, well, the offense came. That unbelievable run that Patrick Mahomes had there to help the Chiefs go up on the Titans at that point, 20-17. And you kind of felt like it was going to be a tough road for the Titans in the second half after that one, and it was, as they lose 35-24. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the 49ers, who ended up pretty much handling business yesterday in San Fran, taking on the Green Bay Packers. And so who do you have? I'll tell you who I'm going to pick. The team in red. See what I did there? Yeah, the Titans come to an end there, and so we'll get into this game here heavily. But first, let me say that this hour we will be having Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise Sports Team. He will be joining me. We are going to talk a boatload of high school basketball in the 17th District. Boys side next segment, and then the third segment of today's show, we'll get to the girls' side. So we're going to keep Mike into some overtime here this afternoon and talk about all of the area hoops as we are going to have a good one. Well, we're going to have some dang good games here in Hardin County this week. When I say good, how about North Hardin, Elizabethtown tonight on the girls' side? That should be a pretty good one, right? How about tomorrow with John Hardin, undefeated, taking on Elizabethtown, undefeated? That's going to be the game everybody's talking about tomorrow. And then Friday, why don't we end the week on a Radcliffe showdown? Boys basketball, John Hardin, North Hardin, that all coming up this week. 106.1 ESPN Radio. Give us a follow on our social media pages to keep up with the action. ESPN Radio 106.1 on Twitter, and find out where we'll be next on 106.1 ESPN Radio's Facebook page as well. Give us a like and follow through social media. We would appreciate that. So that's what's going on this week. We'll talk about those games and more coming up here in segments 2 and 3. But let's get back to it. The Tennessee Titans falling 35-24. Let's do a stat rundown here with this game. And as I pull that up real quick, so they beat the Patriots 20-13 on the road. Then they go on the road to Baltimore, win 28-12. And then another road game yesterday, losing 35-24, which saw stats like this. Ryan Tannehill, you kind of knew he was going to have to throw for over 100 yards compared to what he did those previous two games, as I was just talking about, where it was Derrick Henry getting a workload, in which Derrick Henry got his carries yesterday. It's just the 49ers defense just a little bit better up front than the two previous teams. So Ryan Tannehill, 21 of 31, not a spectacular day by any stretch of the imagination. 209 yards, had 2 touchdowns yesterday for Ryan Tannehill. And I think Mike Vrabel, even though the Titans lose this game, I think he feels good about Ryan Tannehill moving forward. Of course, they acquired him from the Dolphins in the beginning part of the season. He gets implemented in after Marcus Mariota is not stepping up and filling his weight out on the field, not leading the offense like this coaching staff would have hoped. And I'm going to say he fell short. Marcus Mariota fell short to the faithful down there in Nashville. And it's unfortunate because he's a well-liked guy. He's a very respectable guy. But at the same time, this league is all about results. What have you done for me lately? And he was not winning and not producing down the field results, in which Ryan Tannehill does a much better job at. So Ryan Tannehill, 21 of 31, 209 yards. He did have a bigger day than what he did. At least he threw for over 100 yards, right? You gotta like that. He even doubled up on that, over 200. Still not enough, though, as you look at the rushing game. Derrick Henry, of course, he was the talk about. Everybody was discussing him after the first couple of games here in the postseason. A quiet day for the most part. He did have that touchdown where they went out of the Wildcat, but for the most part, just a quiet day. Only 69 yards on 19 carries. Only averaged 3.6 per carry, which was very un-Derrick Henry-like. And that just shows how good that 49ers defense was going into that game. Because not only in the NFC West division were they pretty much slowing teams down, it just all season long, that defense looked good. There was a couple of moments where you're like, okay, maybe they're not as good as what they were, but then they came back the next series and showed that, okay, they're one of the best ones in the league. And so I think that's what's going to make the Super Bowl interesting. You're going to have that Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes against that defense. And honestly, I think the 49ers offense is clicking just enough, especially with Kettle at the tight end. Like, how can you think that, that's not going to be an up and down game? Possibly. Or are we going to see the defense show up for Kansas City and we're going to have a defensive game and then everybody complain like they did last year with the Rams and the Patriots where it was 13-3 and nobody was scoring? I don't know. Because it seems like you can never make people happy, and it always seems like you get into situations where you get too much offense, people are like, where's the defense? You get into a game, they finally play some defense like they did in the Super Bowl last year, and everybody's saying, yawn, this is boring, why am I watching this? I swear, people are bad, they're terrible, and social media, unfortunately, highlights all of the miserable people out there. I'm just saying. And it's unfortunate the rest of us who are avid sports fans who can appreciate the game for what we were seeing on the field, and we have to go through that, but that's another story for another day. This is about who's playing in the Super Bowl. It's the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Who do you have? I'm one of those. I grew up liking the 49ers, more so for Jerry Rice and Steve Young. I grew up on those guys, and so I like the 49ers, but I know a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans, so I'm kind of at a toss-up here because I really don't have a NFL team for my own anymore. I found out I was more of a players guy after moving away from the Bay or from the West Coast. Yeah, so I really don't have a dog in this fight. I just want the game to be good. I'm just going to treat it as me calling a basketball game like it will be tonight with Elizabethtown and North Hardin girls basketball. I just want a good game. That's all I want. entertain me. I hope the halftime show is good. I hope the singing of the national anthem just gets everybody's blood flowing and gets everybody amped up for it. And the show is just good. The game is good. Everybody's talking about it for years to come. That's what I'm hoping out of this year's Super Bowl. But congratulations to Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans. They came up one game short, but on the flip side of that, nobody, and I mean nobody, gave this team a shot. They got to the postseason 9-7. You look at the regular season play at times, nobody thought that they would go to New England and pull off the victory there. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave them a shot to go to Baltimore the following week and win against a team that seemed like they were clicking on all cylinders, and there was no stopping Lamar Jackson. And they did it. Unfortunately, you get that victory in the regular season over the Kansas City Chiefs down in Nashville, but you knew you go to Arrowhead, one of the loudest places on the planet, on game day, and it was going to be tough to try to pull off two straight against that Kansas City team. And how about Andy Reid getting to the big game finally again? He did it once with the Eagles. Now he's back there. Can he win a championship this time? That'll be a question that will be answered during the big game. And we'll be talking about that when that time comes. This is Heartland Sports Live, though. I'm Trevor Rice on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPNRadio1061.com. I will have Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise Sports Team joining me this hour. We'll keep him in overtime today with a couple of segments. Next segment, we'll talk about 17th District boys basketball. And then to wrap up the show today, we'll get into 17th District girls basketball as things are heating up just past the midway point of January ball. And we've got some good ones here on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM. And we live stream each and every game we broadcast on ESPN Radio 1061.com. North, Elizabethtown, girls side, and Radcliffe tonight. Boys tomorrow, John Hardin, Elizabethtown. We got two top 10 teams going at it, folks. Number one team in the state in John Hardin taking on, last I knew they were still sixth. Maybe they moved up. I haven't looked at the rankings that have been released. But, yeah, it is 19-0 John Hardin against 15-0 Elizabethtown. Tomorrow, boys basketball. Make sure you catch that one right here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. I will be at that game. And, oh, my goodness, I cannot wait. Because I have a feeling that not only is the matchup on the floor going to be a battle, but I can't wait for the crowd. If we want to be honest, we go to these Hardin County matchups, the crowd is what entertains me more than the game at times. And that's not to take anything away from those kids performing out in front of me, because let's be honest, we've got some talented young talent here in Hardin County doing their thing, trying to get to that next level and play college ball next year. But it's the friends, family, students, teachers, everybody who shows up to these games that makes these games unique. And thank you to all of those here in Hardin County who show up and cheer loud and proud. The only thing that I will say is there's some times where we're not as respectable as we should be to the officials. Lay off the officials a little bit. They are human. Granted, they're down there on the floor and should see everything that, you see. But the realistic side of it is they don't. So just lay off of them a little bit. And like they say before every game, respect. Show respect, sportsmanship. That's what it's all about. You want your kids to down on the floor? You gotta do that yourself. You gotta lead by example. So let's be respectable to the officials out on the floor, because this is high school basketball. For crying out loud. This is not cheering on our favorite NFL or NBA team where they're getting paid millions. Right? Well, we'll be back with Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise. He's coming in shortly, right after this, on 106.1 ESPN Radio, and we are live streaming this afternoon, ESPNRadio1061.com. And welcome back into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio 1400 AM. When we are also live streaming this afternoon on ESPN Radio 1061.com. I have Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise in the studio with me. Mike, how have you been?
Good, Trevor. How are you?
Doing well. Getting ready for, before too long, we're going to be talking about the 17th District tournaments, then 5th Region tournaments here before too long, and we've got some good games.
Yes, we do.
Coming up this week, in fact.
You think?
Tomorrow night, when we'll talk about this here in just a moment. Tonight, we're going to be here on 106.1 ESPN Radio covering girls 17th District action with Elizabethtown visiting North Hardin. That game tonight at 7:30 p.m. And then Friday, a game we'll have here on 106.1 ESPN Radio as well, a Radcliffe showdown between John and North, 7:30 p.m. And a game tomorrow night, Mike, where I think the whole state might be keeping an eye on this one. John Hardin, Elizabethtown, two top 10 teams, number one team in the state, John Hardin. Both teams still undefeated at this point in the season. So many headlines in this one.
Yeah, there is. But you know what the kicker for this whole thing is? Seriously? The game really doesn't matter. Because all that matters is the second game of the 17th District, and that seeds you for the 17th District tournament. So as great as much, listen, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the place being packed. I'm looking forward to a band. I'm looking forward to the E-Town Pep Band. I'm looking forward to loud, screaming people. I'm looking forward to a great refereeing crew. I'm looking forward to all things good when it comes to high school basketball. And that's what's going to happen tomorrow night at E-Town in Charlie Rawlings Memorial Gymnasium. That's just going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
How does the KHSAA treat that, a game like this? Do they go out and they look for one of the better crews, like one of the more consistent crews?
It's not the KHSA. It's your local assigner. Every region has an assigner, and he assigns games. And when you've got two of the best teams in the state, both undefeated, John Hardin number one, E-Town, let's say 5 or 6 because the rankings came out. So there, you got number one, and E-Town was 6 last week, so 1 and 6 in the state. You need to have good stripes in there, point blank. You just do, and you need to have 3 guys who can handle the moment, handle everything, handle the crowd, handle the yelling. Whoever's in the stripes tonight, even if they're the 3 the best, they're gonna get yelled at by both sides. They're gonna get yelled at by half the gym at one time, half the gym at the other time. They gotta be able to handle it. That's just the truth. You know, and it's going to be raucous from start to finish, especially after the way both games were last year. Both games were really, really, really good basketball games.
They were.
So I expect the one tomorrow night to be just as good, if not better. It's a game you want to play in. We talked about this for the Central North football game. These are the games you want to play in. These are the games you want to be a part of. This. You don't get. Let's face it. You don't get these games all the time.
No, you don't. In fact, we'll be lucky if we see another one like this. How many times do you have 2 basketball programs still undefeated past the midway?
4 in the state. I think there's 4 in the state.
Past the midway point of January.
Agreed.
This late in the season.
And they're in the same district.
They're
10 miles apart. Yeah, exactly. And you got John, who is 20-0, and they have won, 55 of the last 56. Hello, that's kind of good. And you've got E-Town, who is 15-0, and yeah, they're missing one of their starting guards in Cam Sherrard because he's still out with the bum ankle, and Clay Games is out for the season. So, but E-Town's been playing like this for the past 10 games because Cam's injury happened after Game 4. This is E-Town's played the last 11 games without Cam and without Clay, so they're used to this now. I mean, they're used to the rotation. They're used to what they do. They're used to all this stuff. What's great about tomorrow night is the fact that both teams love to press. Both teams love to get in transition. Both teams want to go. I mean, both teams want to go. It's like, letting loose Secretariat. They just want to go. They just want to go and 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 go some more.
And I know you and we expect that. At any point, do you think they try to slow it down, or do you think we just see a fast pace for 4 quarters?
Well, here's the thing that I think people are going to forget. John Harden averages 78.2 a game. They're third in the state. E-Town averages 76.3 a game. They're fourth in the state. But John Harden is fourth in the state in team defense. E-Town is 23rd in the state in team defense. John Harden allows 48.7 a game. E-Town allows 52.4 a game. People forget these two teams are really good defensively also, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone, look, you may get a 96-92 game. Because last year the first game was 94-86. Second game was 76-74. So you can get anything in between. Are you going to get a 50-48 game? I doubt it.
No.
I really, really doubt that. Both teams want to go. Both teams want to go. Both teams want to go. And both teams are at their best when they're going. They're at their best when they're going. Right? They're at their best when transition goes. They want to get it out. Obviously, E-Town wants to get it to Jaquias, who can pretty much score from anywhere. And Camden Williams, really, Kaya Sherrard really has stepped up with his brother gone. He's done some. I mean, so each team wants to go. Each team wants to get it and go. Each team wants to just move it as much as fast as they can up and down the court. Each team can also slow it down. I've seen them do it. I've seen John be incredibly patient on offense. I've seen E-Town be incredibly patient on offense. So they have that in both their games also, which makes it for a really fun chess match.
It's going to be fun for sure. Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. So both of these teams come in with a bunch of experience. They both come in here knowing the importance of this game. But I think the one difference maker in all of this is the size factor. I think John Harden does have a size advantage in this game. Do you think we will see that show up in this one?
Well, they have 6'10" Preston Murrell, and E-Town's tallest player is 6'2", 6'3", Miles Fields. But it's not like E-Town hasn't gone against taller players before. I mean, the Bardstown kid, so Coach Hare's been around a long time. He knows how to deal with this stuff, and he knows what to do. The difference with John is that when Preston comes out and they bring in J.R. Montgomery or Jalen Tyus, yes, they get smaller, but they also get a little bit faster. As much as Preston runs up and down the court, I'm sure Jalen can beat him up and down the floor. So John becomes a little bit of a different team when Preston comes out, Jalen Tyus comes in, because now they have another three-point shooter, and they're more of a threat from the outside. They still have an inside presence with Alex Matthews, and Trayvon Harris can score inside with the best of them. So John just is a little bit different when Preston's out or when Preston's in. They're still really good. I mean, look, Preston at 18 yesterday when they won the Class 2A championship. He was 8 of 12 from the floor. You can't leave Preston Morrell alone anywhere inside 15 feet. He's hitting that shot. He is. You put him in the short corner, he'll hit, 13 out of 15.
You definitely don't want to put him on the line because he's almost certain to hit those as well.
And you don't want, and he'll hit the elbow jumper as good as anybody. So yeah, and this is the other thing about John is the fact that they are the number 3 team in the state rebounding. They were number 1 for a long time, but they average 40 rebounds a game. E-Town averages 30. That's 10 a game. And you put 5 on both sides of the floor, that means 5 less chances for E-Town to score, 5 more chances for John to score on the offensive end.
Yeah, that's insane.
I mean, so look, I've said it all along. You got to figure out a way to keep Alex Matthews and Trayvon Harris off the boards. That's a must. And Preston too, but Alex is averaging 23, 4, and 11 a game. Trayvon's averaging 17 and almost 9 a game. So you have to keep those guys off the offensive board somehow, some way. Because if you don't, they're going to eat you up, and they're going to get 20 to 30 second chance points. Then if John gets 20 to 30 second chance point, like say 20 second chance points, they're really, really hard to beat. So E-Town, obviously Coach Hare's got to figure out a way to keep John off the boards.
Yeah, you almost feel like the rebounding is going to be a bigger point of emphasis in this game compared to, I think, the last few games in this rivalry. We've been talking about how E-Town, they've been at a disadvantage size-wise, like they'll be in this game tomorrow night. But at least for me, I've been saying that E-Town has to capitalize on every situation on the offensive end. They have to drop shots, because if they're not competing with John Harden going, punch fist for fist in this one, in this rivalry throughout the history recently, you can just see it start to slip away, because John Harden is able to create second and third chance opportunities with the amount of rebounds they usually get per game. So I would expect, John Harden to once again really establish himself down low, creating extra opportunities. And again, you feel like E-Town, they have to make their shots tomorrow night if they want to, like I said, go fist for fist in this game for 4 straight quarters.
I agree. And the one thing about E-Town is the fact that of all the kids playing, they all played last year in these 2 games. It's not like E-Town graduated a bunch of kids. They graduated one kid, Noah Peeler, who came off the bench. So all these E-Town kids played in both these games last year that were 94, 86, and 76, 74. So they're used to this. And this is the atmosphere they're used to. And they scored 36 points in the third quarter Friday night against Meade County. 36 points. They can put up points in a hurry. And if John is careless with the ball, E-Town can punish them. That's just the truth. You can't. I mean, both teams can have turnovers, but you can't have a succession of them to where you don't even get a shot off and the other team runs off 8 in a row. I mean, that's huge, because we know basketball's a game of runs. It's a game of momentum. And if you go down, if you go 2-3 times down the floor without even getting a shot because you turn it over, the other team now converts ball 3 times. That's a 6-0 run. And instead of being down 2, you're down 8. Instead of being down 8, you're down 14. Or instead of being down 4, the other team's now up 4. So both teams have to take care of the ball against both teams' pressure, because both teams are going to press. At some point in time, both teams are going to press, because that's what they do. That's who they are. That's their DNA. So can the other team make sure that they handle the pressure of the other team? And let's face it, the one thing about John, I've said this all along, John doesn't panic. They've been enough at these games in the past 3 years. They don't panic. They don't play faster than they're supposed to for the most part. Every team does at some point in time. For the most part, John knows how to slow down. John doesn't take very many bad shots. John just doesn't panic. So if it's one of those things where they're down 12-2 to start the game, if it happens, they're not going to panic and try to get 12 points back in the next possession. That's not going to be John. And I think E-Town's been a much better job of not panicking. Also, they know that they can run off. Jaquias can go nuts sometimes and all of a sudden start hitting everything. And then if he misses a couple shots, Kaya's done a nice job. Camden does a nice job. And then off the bench, and then you got Jacob Moberly and Matthew Pinkham, and you've got Miles Fields inside, who does a really, really nice job. I think he does a great job, Miles, inside. And you have all these kids, and all of a sudden, that it's going to be, who makes the fewest mistakes in crunch time, who can execute their offense, and who can be patient. As much as we talk about both teams wanting to get up and down the floor as much as possible, both teams at some point in time are going to have to be patient on offense, and they're going to have to be patient on defense. To where offensively they've run through a couple sets and the other team's playing really good defense, they just can't jack up a shot just because. They just can't take the next shot just because. They have to be able to run through their stuff, run it through, reverse the ball, run it through. And both teams are going to have to be able to do that at some point in time during the game, or multiple times during the game. At the same time, if they play 30 to 45 seconds of great defense, they can't last for 2 seconds, because those 35 and 45 seconds could be gone in a flash because the team just made a backdoor layup because someone just fell asleep for 2 seconds. That's what's so fun about this game. You got 2 great offensive teams, you got 2 great defensive teams, you got 2 great coaches. Both teams want to press, both teams want to run. I think the number one factor, can E-Town keep John off the offensive boards? That's just what I think it's going to come down to. I may be 100% wrong on this, but I think that's a big factor.
Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. 7:30 p.m. tip-off tomorrow night here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. That will be John Harden, number 1 team in the state, against top, like I said, five or six, at least 6. Not against number 6, Elizabethtown, tomorrow night here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. What matchup are you going to be looking for in this game, or watching most, I guess I should say? Who matches up with Alex Matthews?
Nobody. There ain't many people in the state who can match up with Alex Matthews. That's just truth. Now, if E-Town goes to a man, but see, here's where Alex is so much better than he was last year and so much better than he was. He's hitting threes now on purpose. He's taking threes. I don't know what his percentage is, but I know as a team, John's hitting 37% of their threes. That's 40th in the state. E-Town's hitting 27% of the threes.
Which is better than some NBA teams.
But Alex is shooting threes now. So, and if he hits 2 or 3 in a row, now you got to go guard him. And if he ball fakes, it goes around you, and then he can dish it off to Preston or Trayvon. Or if you don't get in front of him, he'll slam. He'll just take it home. That's where Alex's game has just gone drastically better. He's shooting 60-something, 69, whatever percent from the free throw line, much better than last year. So he's kind of the kid where you want to put Camden. I think Camden can cover him. I think Camden Williams can cover him. Camden's a strong. Jaquias can cover him. I don't think you need Miles to cover him because if Alex wants to stand outside the 3-point line, who's going to guard the big kid inside? That has to be Miles Fields.
Yeah, I was already kind of expecting Miles Fields to be matched up on
Peanut,
Preston.
Alondre Murphy can cover Alex, but you need quickness, you need toughness, you need on the ball. And that's one thing where E-Town is so good. Their on the ball man defense is nasty. It's really, really good. And one of their better defenders, Cam Sherrard, unfortunately, is going to be on the bench. Their on the ball defense is as good as anybody's.
Would you agree that when we look at the final result of this one tomorrow night, we could be pointing to the bench being the biggest factor in why that team won?
Absolutely. You got Jacob Moberly, you've got Matthew Pinkham coming off the bench. You've got and then E-Town, you've got Jaron Montgomery, you have Jalen Tyus, right? You have Kennard coming off the bench. So, yeah, you're right. And the thing about the bench is you don't necessarily have to score. That's one thing people don't. I mean, yeah, it'd be great. I mean, if Jalen comes in and hits 4 out of 5 threes, that's huge for them. But if J.R. Montgomery comes in and just plays lockdown defense on somebody, yeah, he may not have 0 points in the stat sheet, but if he plays lockdown defense, that's just as important as anything else. Matthew Pinkham comes off the bench to play for E-Town. All of a sudden, he makes sure Devin Rogers doesn't shoot any threes. That's just as important as anything else. So guys come off the bench don't necessarily have to score. Although I think that's part of Jalen Tyus' role is to shoot threes and hit threes. And I've seen Jaron Montgomery shoot and hit. Same thing with Moberly and Pinkham and those guys. I've seen them all do it. But you got to play defense. And the long run is going to be who can make a stop when they need to make a stop. Like, let's say it's 80-76 or 70-66 or whatever it is with 2 minutes to go, and John's up 4 and E-Town needs to make a stop. Can they make a stop? Or John's down 2 with 90 seconds to go. E-Town has the ball. Can John play defense to either force a turnover, can they make a stop? Can you make a stop when you need to make a stop? And then can you convert that on the offensive end?
You mentioned Cam Sherrard being out. If E-Town ends up losing this game tomorrow night, is this going to be what highlights Cam not being out on the floor most?
Well, look, E-Town's played 11 games without him. It's not like he got hurt yesterday.
But
I mean,
to this point, how many teams have they been facing that have been John Harden level? Do you think
none? But they've also played some really good teams that they've taken care of. PRP in the Barstow in the Campbellsville. I mean, they've played some pretty good basketball teams that they've beaten without Cam Sherrard. Now, Cam Sherrard is a major part of their entire, especially his on-the-ball defense. He and Kai's on-the-ball defense are nasty good. So, yeah, but here's the difference is the fact that Cam's been out since Game 4 or since Game 5. This is Game 16. So E-Town's been able to play without him and understand their roles. Roles have had to change a little bit. Things have had to change a little bit. And obviously when Cam comes back, things will change a little bit. And I guarantee you Coach Hare would much rather have Cam Sherrard 100% healthy for tomorrow night's game than sitting on the bench, probably still in the boot.
Mm-hmm.
But my guess is what they're looking at is the Game 2 was the game that really, 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 really matters at John on February 4th, and that's the game that's going to give you the number 1 or 2 seed for the most part, right?
Exactly. John Hardin, Elizabethtown tomorrow night, 106.1 ESPN Radio, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. When we come back, we will talk 17th District girls basketball with Mike here in just a moment on 106.1 ESPN Radio. This is Heartland Sports Live. Welcome back into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 on the AM side, and we are live streaming this afternoon on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Trevor Rice with you. We still have Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise here in studio. We just got done talking about the big matchup tomorrow night between John Hardin and Elizabethtown. Let's talk about a game going on tonight and just where the 17th District girls are just in general with all the teams. E-Town and North Hardin and Radcliffe at 7:30 p.m. tonight. You'll be able to catch that game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. And Elizabethtown, once again, Mike, no surprise, one of the top two teams in the 5th region this season. And it seems like I had some questions about their bench to start the season. I think you did as well, about where they were. Overall, where do you see this team, and do you think they can compete with some of the best when it comes down to crunch time, 5th region tournament play? And if they somehow manage to get to the Sweet 16, can they compete with some of these better teams?
They can, absolutely. My question is, does Sydney Clark come back? She's 11, 12 points, 8, 9 rebounds a game player. So is her knee going to be okay to actually come back, district, region, whatever it is? That's the first question. The second question, I think their bench has done a very, very, very nice job. Olivia Yerkerson has come in and done some nice things. Kezzy Franken's come in and does some nice things. Brooklyn Can every once in a while, when she has done, they've done some nice things. So while Coach Sweeney has, they've had to do different things. I think where they're really good, obviously they have Whitney Hay, who just the other night passed against me, surpassed 2,000 points, which is the second player in school history behind Aaron Boley to do that. So it's massive recognition there, and just a great feat to be done. But you got Witt, you got Ellie Taylor playing the 2, you got Kayra Freeman playing the 1. You got Rakia Cormier coming off, now no longer coming off the bench, starting, and you have the freshman, 6'2" freshman Zavi Smiley, who can, who have some really nice nights, and sometimes as a freshman just has and struggles. But when the people struggle, you have Kayra or Witt or Ellie or whoever come out and just Rakia's done some really, really nice things. She's gotten more confidence, and I think, and let's face it, if you're Zavi or Rakia, your responsibility for the most part is to be ready for a bullet pass from Ellie or Kayra or Witt, and that's how E-Town gets a lot of their points, because you have to guard Ellie Taylor everywhere. You have to guard Kayra Freeman everywhere, because Kayra is now hitting threes, probably not as consistently as she wants, but she's hitting threes, which means you have to go out and guard her. I mean, if she was 2 for $1 billion, you let her keep shooting, but she will make threes. So now you have to go out and guard her. If you have to go out and guard Kayra Freeman, she's going around you at some point in time, for the most part, because there's not a whole lot of guards in the state that can keep up with the quickness of Kayra Freeman. Now tonight, Jada Gregory is one of them from North, who's very quick. So then you got Ellie, who can catch it on the wing, dish and drive and dish, or can lay it in. You got Whitney, who can score from anywhere on the floor. And then you got Zavi down there, 6'2", and Rakia cleaning everything up. So I think E-Town's done a really, really, really nice job since Sydney Clark's been out of kind of retooling their offense, retooling their defense. E-Town's entire game is predicated on their defense. Period. The better their defense, the better they are. They get more transition points. I've seen them play lockdown defense where it's just scary good, and I've seen them struggle.
Yeah, their defense is what has led them to many just fast break points and just creating easy transition buckets for them throughout my time in seeing this program in the 3-4 years I've been here now. So I mean, their defense is what, like you said, is going to help them continue to win ball games and keep them in tight situations with some of the better teams in the state. Let's talk about North Hardin real quick, though. 13-7 on the season. You mentioned Jada Gregory. where is North Hardin compared to E-Town in tonight's game?
Unfortunately for North, they just sometimes have a hard time putting the ball in the basket every once in a while still, and that's what's going to hurt them sometimes, is they go through offensive lulls that really hurt them. Because while they go against teams where they can get transition points on a regular basis, it's hard to get transition points against E-Town. It's just hard. Because Kara can run you down from behind, Ellie can run you down from behind, and it's also hard to press E-Town. Not that teams won't do it, because they will, but it's still hard to press them because Ellie can break it, Kara can break it, Whitney can break it. They can break the press. So for North, they have to be able. Obviously, E-Town's going to know at all time where Addison Sutton is, because she can break off a handful of threes in a second. So you have to know where Addison is. You got to know where Ella Shearer is. Des Bryant is a very good freshman, and she can do a lot of things. I think she leads the area in steals at over 4 a game. Then you have Zariah Rupp and Kiki Woods inside. Where North got in trouble last time is that E-Town started dominating the boards. Zavi Smalley and Rakia and Witt, they started getting offensive rebounds, and when you start getting offensive rebound putbacks, and those numbers add up quickly, and that's where John kind of fell through. In addition to E-Town's defense picked it up a notch in the third quarter against North the first game. And I was at that game, and North was playing really good. North had a really good second quarter. They had a really tough second half, and E-Town's defense just went locked down. You're not getting anything. So if North can come out and hit a couple threes, Addison can hit a couple threes, and Jada can, drive and dish, or Jada's actually been hitting a few threes lately, which makes the defensive play actually honest on her. North can do some really good things, and then Z and Kiki inside, and when Tempest comes in, they can do some good things inside. It's just they just don't have the quickness outside of Jada who can really, really, really keep up if E-Town gets their transition game going. It's just hard sometimes for North to do that. So if North can keep the transition game from happening, then they can make this an incredibly competitive game, because they did that in the second quarter against E-Town the first time. They limited transition points. They played much better defense. They were patient on offense, and when they had the open shot, they took it. They weren't weren't trying to make the extra pass just to make the extra pass. They were looking to take shots. And they got it inside to Z, got it inside to Kiki, did some nice things. Addison hit some shots. Jada in transition. They did some really nice things in the second quarter of the first game against E-Town. And then, but like I said, the E-Town's defense was just incredibly good the second half. So John can do some really good things. They just went through a 4-game losing streak, because every team struggles throughout the season. That was John's. That was North's. That was North's struggle. Now they just have to, let's get ready. Let's do our thing. And the big game for them, if they lose tonight, is still dealing with Central Hardin the second time and John Hardin 2 more times.
One thing that we don't talk much about in girls basketball is just the size of players, and that's one thing that E-Town does have the advantage on some of our area schools is they're just taller, just lanky. They have the arm length to be able to swat the ball out of the air and stuff like that. And I think that's what this game's going to come down to tonight once again, is just the size difference. And you get Smalley down low, who's going to compete with her for rebounds?
It's hard. It's really hard to compete with her for rebounds. E-Town can run a 1-3-1 trap, and they could put Zavi in the middle and Witt on one side and Ellie on the other, and that's as length as it gets. If you put those three across the middle, you could put Kara on the bottom chasing the baseline, and like I said, I don't think there's not a lot of players faster than Kara Freeman or quicker than Jada Gregory's right there with her, and they can do some damage defensively, because you're right, they are lengthy. Witt's 6 foot with a good wingspan, and she can tip a lot. She doesn't. You don't always have to steal balls. You can deflect them, right? Deflect them out of bounds. Just kind of get your hand on it, get your mid on it. Just kind of not go in the right direction. If you get a mid on it and you touch it, then instead of meeting the girl who's trying to go to the basket, it now goes behind her because it got deflected. So that's one thing that E-Town can do a lot. And then without Sydney in there, if you put Sydney back in there, they're really lengthy. Yeah, because Sydney's 6 foot with arms that are forever. So you're right. They're an incredibly lengthy team, and it's really hard. I think North can do a nice job against Zavi inside, but that has to be every time down the floor. You know what I mean? You just can't. if a shot goes up, you have to put a body on Zavi. You have to put a body on Zavi. Then you have to put a body on Rakia. Then you have to put a body on Witt, and you have to put a body on Ellie. So you can't relax against those four. You just can't. And if you happen just to oops one time, all of a sudden, Witt comes off the edge and gets a rebound, kicks it to Zavi, and tips it to Zavi for an easy two, or tips it to Rakia for an easy two, or Ellie comes in out of nowhere, gets a rebound, and so all of a sudden you think you have rebounding, but you haven't really put a body on anybody or put a butt on anybody, and then pretty soon they have just grabbed 3 straight offensive rebounds and put them all back, and now instead of you getting a stop and going down to try to score, they just scored 6 straight offensive points on second chance points. And that's where E-Town that's another way they can hurt you, along with various other ways.
Another game going on tonight in Radcliffe. John Hardin High School, 17th District girls action. John and Central playing each other as well. What do you see in that matchup?
Well, it's hard to tell with John. They've had a couple. It's been pretty quiet for them lately, and they haven't played a whole lot lately. And I think Nikki Coleman's doing a really nice job. And they've only played one district game, E-Town, back in early December. So they haven't played a district game since losing to E-Town December 17th?
Yeah, 68-37.
So they haven't played a district game since then. They're 0-1. Central comes in 0-3. They've lost to E-Town twice and lost to North. This is a massive game because every team not named E-Town wants to be in the 2-3 game. They don't want to be in the 4-5 game. Right? Because if you're in if you're in the 4-5 game, that means you're facing E-Town in game 2. If you're in the 2-3 game, you win one game and you make it to the 5th region tournament.
Make it to the 5th region tournament. You're right.
So North, Central, John, and Knox are both fighting for the 2-3 game. So this is a massive game tonight with Central and John. Nikki Coleman has brought John a long way since she took over. But they haven't had a district game again since for a month. So who knows? Central, on the other hand, is 0-3, but you lost to E-Town twice and lost to North in the last 5 seconds. And I saw him the other night. I saw him last week, a week and a half ago, or 9 days ago, beat Franklin County, who at the time was ranked 9th or 10th in the state. And if they play like that, they can do some damage. Monica Lindsay is playing really well. Alyssa Lindsay's playing well. The Kendrick twins are playing well. Em's there. Emily Bryant. So, and they're getting help off the bench. So to me, that's going to be a very interesting game. And the issue is, can North keep from turning the ball over against Central's pressure?
John, you mean?
Excuse me. Can John keep from turning the ball over against Central's pressure? And in transition, can John get back against Central? On the other hand, can Central handle Sharon Tidwell on the offensive glass? Can John make sure they know where Brooke Graham is at all times so she doesn't get loose for threes? Keona Clay, she's doing a really nice job at point. I mean, so John has their moments. Mackenzie Graves has played really well. So John is now getting, I think, more and more what Nikki Coleman wants him to do. But they're a little bit of mystery right now because they've only played one district game. Central has to play better defense. They have to. Mm-hmm. They have to play better defense. And they have to convert transition points. Doesn't always happen with them. They have to convert transition points. And that's one thing about girls basketball. What have you heard? Make layups, make free throws. Well, if you don't make layups, that's hard to convert transition points. Right? I mean,
yeah.
And both teams have to do that in order to be successful. So can John handle Central's pressure, and can Central in turn play the defense they need to play in order to shut down Brooke outside, in order to shut down Sharon Tidwell inside, in order to take care of what they need to take care of?
Who do you think's the difference maker in this Central John matchup tonight?
With the way she's been playing lately, Monica Lindsay, because Monica Lindsay has played some really, really, really good basketball lately. And as a point guard and doing things, I think she's being a little bit more selfish sometimes, which I think is what Kojo wants her to be, Coach Christina Covington-Jones. I think she wants Monica, not all the time, mind you, but every once in a while be a little bit more selfish on driving to the basket and getting an and one or getting fouled, as opposed to having it in your mindset as you're leading a 3-on-2 break that you already know at the half court who you're going to throw it to, regardless of what the defense does. Because sometimes the defense, you think the defense is going to do one thing, they do another, and as opposed to, and if you've already had your mind made up at half court what you're going to do, and the defense doesn't do what you think they're going to do, it does. That's how you that's how you don't convert transition points. So right now, I would say Monica Lindsay.
Here's my difference in that game tonight. Experience. I just think Central has a little bit more at this point, working together as a unit on the floor. I like that combination of what we can see Central do when they're playing their best basketball. Not only in the 17th district, you can say the 5th region. They're one of the toughest teams. You don't want to play them when they're at their best. Any team in the 5th region. So I'm going to say just the overall experience on the floor. Central, John, they're playing much better. You've seen them in person. I've seen them in person playing much better this season. But I just like Central a little more in this one, and
I can see that. Yeah,
being media, whenever you go to these games, you call these games, you just want the game to be competitive.
Yeah,
like that's all you can ask for.
You just want a good game, right? Listen, we don't care who wins, right?
Yeah,
we just want to see a good game. I just want to write a good story. I just want to see competitive, good basketball. And I understand sometimes, like the E-Town North first game was competitive in the first half, and then E-Town took care of it in the second half. That's part of basketball. But it was still a nice competitive game for a while, and you go and watch it.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. So we just want to see good competitive basketball, and whatever happens, and we go from there.
He is Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise. Mike, how can people find out more about you guys?
We are at the NE Sports. Matt Tyson tonight will be at the John Central game. I'll be at the E-Town North game, and then
will I see you tomorrow night?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Not missing.
What about the Friday game? North and John.
We haven't gotten that far yet, but that's going to be a very interesting game. John North Part 2 is going to be incredibly interesting.
Both. You don't see as much on the girls' side. I guess the E-Town fan base I've heard get pretty rowdy. North, I know their fan base can make some noise, but on the boys' side in particular, this game tomorrow night and Friday night. Look, I love good basketball games, but I love a good crowd too.
Yeah,
and the crowd. Just listening to them while I'm calling games, or a foul happens, or just hearing the stuff that's yelled out. Look, kids, you shouldn't repeat some of the stuff that you hear the adults say, but it's entertaining to me.
It is incredibly entertaining. I've always said student sections pretty much have carte blanche to say what they want to say. Obviously, they know. Look, students know where the line is, right? Students know where the line is, and that's why you have administrators there to make sure they don't cross the line. Student sections can pretty much say whatever they want. Because it's students yelling at students, right? John students yelling at E-Town players and E-Town students yelling at John players. I'm all in for that. All in for that. Because that's fun. Parents, adults, just enjoy. Let all the yelling be done by the kids.
They can't just enjoy it, though.
You're right.
They got to give their 2 cents.
It's amazingly hard sometimes for people just to enjoy an athletic event.
And just remember, folks, these are high schoolers. You're not watching millionaires perform in front of you.
Exactly.
These are high school kids.
Yeah.
Everything will be okay. You'll wake up tomorrow.
And let's face it, Wednesday morning, either John Hardin or E-Town is going to wake up with their first loss of the season. Right?
And it'll make them a better team because of it.
And you know what the coach is going to say? Okay, that's in our review mirror. Let's go forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we got another game. And then we have another game. And then we have another game. And then we have another game. And we'll meet them again on February 4th. And that's a game that matters. So let's go. There won't be a lot of dwelling. There'll be some film watching.
Yeah.
To see good, bad, and the ugly. But once the game's over and whatever happens, the next morning the next day of practice, each coach is going, okay, who do we have next?
Yep, exactly.
And that's all that's going to matter to them.
It's all that's going to matter. He is Mike Matheson of the News Enterprise. I'm Trevor Rice. Thank you so much for joining us here on Heartland Sports Live this afternoon. I'll be back next Monday, 5 until 6. Who knows who my guest will be? You'll just have to tune in and follow me on social media at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter. enjoy, no playoff football this week because now we got a boring weekend ahead of us. No Super Bowl.
It's that fun Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl that nobody cares about. I got you. All the players who are there just to, I guess, live in the moment and not really care about the game. They just go there for the fun.
How good is Patrick Mahomes?
Really good.
Yeah, dude is sick. Just sick.
Who do you have in the Super Bowl real quick?
Right now,
Mike?
I have the Chiefs because I think Patrick Mahomes is nasty good.
I'm going for the team in red.
Nice.
It's Heartland Sports Live, ESPN Radio. Enjoy the sports week.